Look at all of this stuff. This is all stuff required by our two dogs. I'm very often asked, how much does a dog cost? And the answer is a lot. To put it simply, it's a lot. Dogs are not cheap, and the best thing that you can do if you are thinking about adopting a dog is to ensure that you are financially ready to make that commitment. So, you know, the biggest things that people think about are those initial expenses. So the first thing you have to think about is, how much is the dog going to cost you? If you're going through a breeder and you're buying a puppy, puppies can cost anywhere from $500 to over $2,000, depending on the breed, depending on the health screenings that the breeder does, things like that. It's extremely expensive to pay for a puppy from a breeder. Your other option would be to rescue a dog. Now, in some cases, you can rescue a dog for free, or you can get a deal with your local shelter. I know our shelter does different adoption deals when the shelter's full and they're trying to make room during different times of the year. They'll run specials. Typically, adopting a dog is a couple $100s, but you also have to think that when you adopt a pet from a shelter, you've paid for the spaying or neutering, you've paid for the initial vaccines, you've paid for those health screenings to make sure the dog is healthy. So there's pros to that cost. Whereas if you buy a dog from a breeder, you also have to factor in those costs. You're going to have to pay to have the dog spay or neutered. You're going to have to pay for an initial vet visit. Initial vet visits are usually about $70. They'll just check the puppy out, make sure everything's great. An annual exam where they get their vaccines, check them all out. They might take some blood, might do like a fecal or urine sample. Those can run upwards of $200. The other thing you need to think about is spaying and neutering. That can cost a couple $100s. So the initial costs of purchasing your dog are, it's a very wide spectrum, but you need to consider that. Once you have your dog, you're going to need stuff, lots and lots of stuff. So first thing, before you even bring your dog home, you're going to need collars, harness, leash, whatever you decide. You can just get standard collars. You can get different types of harnesses. This is Sadie's harness, and she's here right now. We can put it on her. I prefer an over-the-head harness like this one. It's got a traffic handle, really easy to put on and take off of her. Actually, I can show you. Taking off is super simple. So you're going to need collars, harnesses, and of course a leash. If you have a bigger dog, you need a bigger leash. If you have a smaller dog, you need a smaller leash. So Sadie sees all the treats up here, and that's why she's so excited. Sorry about that. But that's something to consider too. Larger dogs are more expensive than smaller dogs for everything. Vet visits are more expensive, food is more expensive, supplies are more expensive for larger breeds. So keep that in mind when you're adopting. The other thing you need to think about are the annual expenses of a dog. Food is a huge expense. Now this is dehydrated food. It's very high quality. This costs about it's about $4 a serving for this kind of food, so that's very expensive. Some of the lower quality kibbles actually cost just cents. You can have a serving for your dog that only costs 25, maybe 30 cents, but they're very low quality, bad diets, so they're going to lead to health issues, obesity, nutritional deficiencies, things like that, which are also going to cost you more in the long run. So my recommendation: spend more on food now, get your dog on proper nutrition, high quality nutrition, and you're going to save yourself money in the long run. Other things I mentioned, annual exams with vaccines and checking for regular health. Toys and treats. There are tons of different toys available. If you have a young dog that loves to play like Sadie, you're going to need a variety of toys. You're going to need lots of toys. A recent study by the ASPCA on the average cost of a dog, they did it on a medium-sized dog, and they said that the average annual cost of toys and treats is about $100. Speaking of treats, there's tons of different options. Again, more nutritious, healthier treats are more expensive, so consider that. If you can't afford the more nutritious, healthier diet, you may want to reconsider and wait to get a dog until you can, because those costs are going to add up for you in the long run. Chews are important. These are rawhide free. These are the kind of, it's rolled up like a rawhide, but it's actually pork, so it's easily digestible. This is what we buy for our dogs. There are bones, there are nylon chews, there are dental chews, tons of optional chews out there. But if you don't want your dog to be destroying your furniture, your shoes, your belongings, chews are a necessity. Interactive toys. This is an interactive toy that our dogs like. They push it around and treats fall out. Treat dispensing toys, things that mentally stimulate your dog. Those can help out when the weather's bad, when you don't have time to take your pet out. They can exhaust them mentally so that you don't have to spend the time exercising quite as often. So that's something to consider. Again, it's an additional expense, but it's going to make your life as a pet owner a little bit easier and your dog's life more enjoyable. Supplements, medical things, you need to think about that. You never know what you're getting, whether you adopt a puppy or you get a rescue dog. 6 days from now, 6 hours from now, 6 years from now, you may run into health problems with your dog that could get extremely costly. You need to consider supplements. A lot of veterinarians recommend a multivitamin supplement or certain, these are joint supplements for our lab Sadie that you just saw. We've been giving them to her since she was a puppy. Labradors are very prone to hip and joint issues. So those can be costly over the life of a dog, but we're hoping that it's going to either prevent Sadie from getting arthritis or push the arthritis off longer. So, you know, it can have savings and it can also have benefits for your dog. Sometimes spending more money but having a healthier, better quality of life for your pet is the best option. So my recommendation, you know, this stuff all costs thousands of dollars. If I add up the average cost of the supplies that I've mentioned here, it's about $1,500 a year for food, an annual exam, toys and treats. You have to license your dog. Think about that. Different fees associated with your dog. If you have a homeowners association, there may be additional fees. If you rent, there might be additional fees to have pets in your rental property. So that kind of stuff, plus those initial costs, the spaying and neutering, dog training, that can get costly if you don't do that yourself. So, you know, on average, it's probably going to cost you about $1,500 a year to have a healthy, average, normal dog. If your dog is a little bit higher maintenance, maybe has, say, some separation anxiety issues, has some medical issues, it's going to get more expensive than that. I personally recommend having at least $2,000 in a savings account, and that's for your pet. And I know from experience, we had a boxer a few years back who was diagnosed with a heart condition, and it cost us just shy of $3,000 at the emergency vet one weekend when she was diagnosed with that health condition. And we also had to buy prescription medication for her every month for the rest of her life. So those kind of things happen. They do happen, and you need to be prepared for that, or you're going to be putting yourself in a really hard situation. And I know people, you probably know people who've had to put a dog down because they can't afford the care. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to the pet. So you need to be prepared for that. So my personal thoughts are $2,000 minimum in a savings account, and I would bank on $1,500 minimum per year that you're going to spend on high quality nutrition, getting your dog the care and the supplies that he needs. So back to my original question, how much does a dog cost? A lot. They're very expensive. Make sure you're financially prepared, do your research, plan ahead, and you should be fine.